and he puts it into life. He puts it into our fifth principle, to put feet on it, to live it, to make it happen, to use our principles to make us better people. And Randy Woodley says, if your religion doesn't make you a better relative in the network of creation, you need to find a new religion. So how we live our principles, how we let them transform us, is primary to why we do this at all. And Craig talked about this too in terms of being in the flow. In the last talk he said, don't make decisions, let decisions make themselves. Let that divine order of life's perfection show us what our next decision is. So how many people are here are familiar with Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul as well as The Surrender Experiment? Yeah, that's probably about 80% of us. So, for many people, The Untethered Soul has been a real book of awakening. It's been a way to put so many teachings into a succinct kind of format of how we can separate from the tyranny of the mind. That's really what he is expert about. And as a young man, he had this simple experience where he was with a friend feeling a little awkward and going on with his mind of the 3 different things he could say to break the awkward silence. You've ever been there? And instead of getting caught up with what can I do to release the tension of this awkward moment, he noticed that he was listing the 3 things he could say, and he noticed that he was thinking of what he could say to break the silence. And he noticed it with a clarity that changed his entire life, because he always knew now how to access that witness that was his divine self beyond what the mind was churning in this moment. And instead he turned to his friend and said, do you have this voice going on in your head that will never shut up? And that was the birth. That was the birth of this authenticity. And it was the birth of the aspiration to not live from what the mind is telling us, but rather to live what life is guiding us to experience and express. So Michael talks about this, and Mickey, he goes by Mickey, and apparently David Now knew him, and so he's got some ties to our community. He really lives this in a very deep way. One of his premises is that we are whole and complete. And our birthright is to come to the world in our complete beingness. But what happens instead is our mind tells us how we need to shape the world so that we can be okay. Our mind tells us what X person needs to do and how he or she needs to relate for us in order for us to be okay. And then when we do that, we get dependent on this way in order for us to feel loved or seen or safe or whatever it is. And then that becomes a new reference point for our fear, because if that changes, we're going to be unstable again. And this process never ends.